Human sacrifices, brutal wars, shattered families, these are elements you might expect to find in the darkest corners of literature or cinema. But surprisingly, they are also deeply embedded in the sacred texts of the Old Testament. This ancient scripture, revered by millions, is more than a spiritual guide, it's a labyrinth of mysteries, filled with haunting events and secrets that challenge both faith and understanding. How can a book so holy contain stories so unsettling? To grasp the depth of these enigmas, we must step back in time, long before modern nations arose, into an age when the world was ruled by kingdoms steeped in rituals, legends, and divine fear. Millennia ago, the lands of the Near East thrived under the influence of mighty civilizations. In the towering cities of Mesopotamia, priests gazed at the stars, believing they held the keys to human destiny. To the south, Egypt's pharaohs claimed divine lineage, building monumental tombs that reached toward the heavens. Along the Mediterranean coast, the Canaanites practiced rituals of devotion to their gods, some so extreme they resonate with horror even today. Among these, the worship of Molech stands out, a deity whose rites demanded sacrifices of the unthinkable kind, often children, offered to flames. Within this landscape of power and fear, a peculiar group emerged, the Israelites. They were wanderers, tracing their lineage to Abraham, a man who left the comforts of his homeland to follow an unseen God. Unlike their neighbors, the Israelites worshipped a single deity, Yahweh, who demanded obedience and offered promises of protection. Their customs were distinct, sacrifices were acts of purification, not appeasement. Yet, they shared a world filled with violence, mystery, and divine intervention. Consider this, the flood narrative, one of the most famous stories in the Old Testament, speaks of a catastrophic deluge sent by God to cleanse the earth of wickedness. But this tale isn't unique to the Bible. Ancient Mesopotamian texts, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, tell of a similar flood, with a chosen man building an ark to survive. Was this a shared cultural memory of an actual event? Or do these stories point to something deeper, a collective human attempt to make sense of divine justice? The Old Testament also brims with figures whose lives are riddled with unanswered questions. There's Cain, the first murderer, marked by God and condemned to wander. What was this mark? Protection or punishment? And what of Enoch, who walked with God and was taken, never to see death? His story, brief yet profound, has fueled centuries of speculation about human connection to the divine. Even the language of the Old Testament holds secrets. The term Elohim, a plural word used for God, has sparked endless debates. Does it hint at a divine council, a gathering of heavenly beings? Or is it a linguistic relic of a polytheistic past? Meanwhile, words like nephesh, often translated as soul, reveal a multifaceted view of life and existence, encompassing breath, vitality, and identity. These linguistic clues are like hidden doors, inviting us to explore layers of meaning often overlooked. These mysteries are only the beginning. As we venture deeper, we encounter figures like Melchizedek, a king and priest whose existence defies conventional understanding. Who was he, and why does he stand as a pivotal yet shadowy figure in biblical history? Let's uncover his secrets next. Amidst the intricate narratives of the Old Testament, few figures are as shrouded in mystery as Melchizedek. His story is brief, yet it echoes through centuries of theological debate. Who was this king of righteousness, this priest of the Most High God, who appears seemingly out of nowhere and vanishes just as quickly? His presence, though fleeting, leaves an indelible mark on the biblical narrative, one that continues to perplex and intrigue scholars and believers alike. Melchizedek's first and only appearance in the Old Testament occurs in Genesis 14. In this chapter, Abraham, then known as Abram, returns victorious from a daring rescue mission, having defeated the armies of 4 kings to save his nephew Lot. As Abram rests in the valley of Shave, Melchizedek appears, a king of Salem and priest of El Elyon, the Most High God. Without introduction or explanation, he offers bread and wine to Abram, blesses him, and receives a tithe of all the spoils. Then, just as abruptly as he arrived, he disappears from the narrative. Who was this enigmatic figure? The text provides no genealogy, no backstory, and no further mention of his life or deeds. For a culture so deeply rooted in lineage and ancestry, this omission is striking. The Israelites meticulously recorded the bloodlines of their priests, yet Melchizedek is described as both a king and a priest, a combination rarely seen and one that defies the Levitical priesthood established centuries later. Theories abound. Some suggest Melchizedek was a divine being, perhaps an angel or even a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ. Others argue he was a historical figure, a Canaanite king who worshipped the same God as Abraham. The name Melchizedek itself means king of righteousness, while Salem is often identified with Jerusalem, lending weight to the idea that he ruled over what would become the spiritual epicenter of Judaism and Christianity. But why did Abraham, a man chosen by God and destined to become the patriarch of a nation, honor Melchizedek so deeply? Could it be that Abraham recognized in him a divine authority, a reflection of the God he served? Or was Melchizedek a symbol, a reminder of the universal reach of God's covenant, extending beyond the Israelites to all nations and peoples? Centuries later, Melchizedek's name resurfaces in the Psalms and the New Testament, where he is compared to Jesus Christ. The author of Hebrews declares Jesus to be a priest, in the order of Melchizedek, emphasizing his eternal and unchanging role as an intercessor for humanity. This comparison raises even more questions. Was Melchizedek's story a foreshadowing of Christ's mission? And if so, why was he hidden in the folds of history, only to be revealed at pivotal moments? Even the elements of his encounter with Abraham, the bread, the wine, the blessing, carry profound symbolism. Bread and wine later become central to Christian sacraments, hinting at a continuity that transcends time. Was Melchizedek's act a precursor to this sacred tradition? Or is it yet another layer of mystery, a puzzle piece waiting to be placed in the broader narrative of salvation? The story of Melchizedek leaves us with more questions than answers, but perhaps that is the point. Some mysteries are not meant to be fully unraveled. Instead, they invite us to ponder, to seek, and to wonder. Mysteries like Melchizedek's remind us of the richness hidden within the Scriptures, stories that challenge our understanding and deepen our faith. What do you think about this mysterious figure? Was he a man, a symbol, or something divine? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation. And if you want to continue exploring the secrets of the Bible, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. There's so much more waiting to be uncovered. The story of the Nephilim, as described in Genesis 6, is one of the most enigmatic and debated accounts in the Bible. It's a tale that feels almost otherworldly, more akin to modern mythologies or supernatural TV series than scripture. Who were these mysterious beings described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men? Giants, as some interpretations suggest? Or something far more subtle, beings whose nature challenges our understanding of both the physical and spiritual worlds? The term Nephilim is introduced in a brief yet chilling passage. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Genesis 6 verses 2-4. At first glance, the word Nephilim might evoke images of towering giants, a concept reinforced by translations like the Greek Septuagint, which uses the term gigantes. But the Hebrew root of Nephilim, naphal, means fallen or to fall. This has led some to interpret them not as literal giants but as fallen beings, possibly hybrid creatures resulting from a union between divine entities and humans. The idea of the Nephilim as giants has permeated popular culture. Movies, books, and even shows like Supernatural portray them as towering, otherworldly figures. But one particular depiction from the series challenges this assumption, a Nephilim character who appears entirely human, blending in seamlessly with those around him. This portrayal aligns with a growing perspective among scholars, that the Nephilim may not have been physically gigantic but rather morally or spiritually large. They could have been individuals of immense influence, strength, or even charisma, heroes of old, men of renown, as the Bible describes. This interpretation opens up new possibilities. If the Nephilim were not literal giants, then the story becomes less about physical size and more about the spiritual corruption that followed. Genesis 6 emphasizes that God's judgment in the form of the flood was provoked by humanity's wickedness. Could the Nephilim have been part of that corruption, not monstrous beings, but men who used their power and influence to spread chaos and defy God? Another mystery lies in the identity of the sons of God. Are they angels, as suggested in the apocryphal book of Enoch, which expands on this narrative? According to Enoch, a group of angels, called the Watchers, descended to earth, lusted after human women, and fathered the Nephilim. This interpretation has fascinated theologians for centuries but remains outside the canonical texts. Others argue that the sons of God were human rulers or members of a distinct line of descendants, possibly from Seth, who intermarried with the descendants of Cain. This view eliminates the need for a supernatural explanation, grounding the story in human history and moral failings. The lack of clarity surrounding the Nephilim has fueled speculation and debate for millennia. Did they survive the flood, as implied by the mention of Nephilim also afterward? Are later references to giants, like Goliath and his kin, connected to this ancient lineage? Or is it possible that the term Nephilim became a metaphor for any being or group that defied God and wielded extraordinary power? Regardless of their true nature, the Nephilim narrative serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of humanity's vulnerability to corruption and the consequences of overstepping divine boundaries. The story is more than a curiosity, it's a reflection of a deeper truth, that some mysteries are meant to provoke thought, humility, and reverence. The Nephilim remain one of the Bible's most compelling enigmas, their nature shrouded in ambiguity. Do you think they were giants, hybrids, or something entirely different? Leave your thoughts in the comments and share your theories. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's still so much more to uncover as we continue to explore the deepest mysteries of the Scriptures. The Exodus is one of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring accounts in the Old Testament, a tale of liberation, faith, and divine intervention. Yet, behind the familiar narrative of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt lies a series of events so extraordinary, they have sparked debates among theologians, historians, and scientists for centuries. Were the plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, and the pillar of fire purely supernatural occurrences? Or do they hold secrets that blur the line between divine miracles and natural phenomena? The story begins in Egypt, a land of grand temples, mighty pharaohs, and a pantheon of gods worshipped with elaborate rituals. The Israelites, however, were a stark contrast, a people enslaved and oppressed, clinging to the promise of a God who had not forgotten them. Enter Moses, a reluctant leader with a divine mandate to confront Pharaoh, one of the most powerful rulers in the ancient world. The confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh sets the stage for the 10 plagues, a series of calamities that devastated Egypt. Each plague seemed to challenge a specific Egyptian deity, from the god Hapi, associated with the Nile, to Ra, the sun god, as darkness covered the land. This battle wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, a direct assault on the gods of Egypt, showing that Yahweh's power was supreme. But could there be a natural explanation for these plagues? Some scientists propose that the Nile turning to blood, for instance, may have been caused by a red algae bloom, which suffocated marine life and tainted the water. This, in turn, could have triggered a chain reaction, the frogs fleeing the river, the explosion of gnats and flies, and the spread of disease among livestock and humans. While these theories offer intriguing insights, they fail to account for the timing and precision of these events, which unfolded exactly as Moses foretold. Could it be that divine will orchestrated natural phenomena to fulfill a greater purpose? Perhaps the most iconic moment of the Exodus is the parting of the Red Sea, a miracle so monumental that it has inspired countless works of art and literature. The Bible describes how the waters were divided, creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross while swallowing the pursuing Egyptian army. But how did it happen? One theory suggests a phenomenon called wind set-down, where strong winds push water to one side, creating a temporary land bridge. Experiments have shown that under specific conditions, this is possible. Yet, the sheer scale and timing of the event, occurring precisely as the Israelites needed to escape, point to something far beyond coincidence. This moment, whether seen as a natural anomaly or a divine intervention, is a testament to the power and mystery of the God of Israel. The journey through the wilderness also brought a daily reminder of God's presence in the form of the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. These phenomena guided the Israelites, offering protection and reassurance. Some scholars speculate that these pillars could have been volcanic activity, with ash clouds and glowing lava lighting the sky. Others suggest that the pillars were entirely supernatural, representing God's direct presence among His people. And then there's the manna, a mysterious substance that sustained the Israelites during their 40 years in the desert. Described as fine flakes like frost, tasting like wafers made with honey, manna was both a practical provision and a spiritual lesson in dependence on God. Attempts to identify manna as a natural phenomenon, such as tree resin or insect secretions, fail to capture its miraculous nature. It appeared daily, except on the Sabbath, and spoiled if hoarded. This wasn't just food, it was a divine gift, a tangible sign of God's care and provision. The Exodus narrative is filled with moments that defy explanation, yet it is also a deeply human story. Imagine the fear of the Israelites as they stood before the Red Sea, the cries of children, the whispers of doubt. Picture the awe of seeing the waters split, the terror of hearing Pharaoh's chariots thundering behind them. These were real people, experiencing a God who intervened in ways both majestic and mysterious. But the Exodus is more than a historical event, it is a story of transformation. The Israelites began as slaves, bound not only by chains but also by fear and doubt. Through the trials of the wilderness, they became a nation, forged in faith and obedience to a God who revealed Himself as both deliverer and provider. The supernatural elements of the story are not distractions, they are essential to understanding the nature of this God, a deity who is both beyond comprehension and intimately involved in the lives of His people. Hidden beneath layers of history, lost to time, and shrouded in secrecy, the Ark of the Covenant is perhaps the most captivating enigma of the Old Testament. Constructed at God's command, this sacred artifact was not merely a box, it was the very representation of His presence among His people. Yet, its disappearance is one of the Bible's most tantalizing mysteries. Where did it go? And, more importantly, why does it matter so much? The Ark's construction is meticulously detailed in the book of Exodus. Crafted from acacia wood and overlaid with pure gold, it housed the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, Aaron's rod that budded, and a jar of manna. Its lid, the mercy seat, was flanked by 2 golden cherubim, their wings outstretched, forming the throne of God Himself. The Ark was no ordinary relic, it was a vessel of divine power. It was said to bring victory to the Israelites in battle, strike down their enemies, and even cause death to those who touched it unworthily. The Ark wasn't just a symbol of God's covenant, it was a direct connection to His holiness. Yet, this object, so central to Israel's identity, vanished from the biblical narrative after the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem. Some claim it was hidden before the destruction of the First Temple, buried deep beneath its foundations to protect it from enemy hands. Others suggest it was taken to Ethiopia, where it is still allegedly guarded by priests in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. And then there are those who believe it was destroyed, a casualty of the chaos of war, or perhaps even taken up into heaven, beyond human reach. But here's the unsettling question: if the Ark was so sacred, why would God allow it to be lost? Was its disappearance a punishment for Israel's disobedience, or is there a deeper purpose, a test of faith, perhaps, to see if the people could trust in God without the physical representation of His presence. The mystery of the ark goes beyond its physical location. It forces us to confront the nature of faith itself. Are we drawn to the tangible because it feels safe, or can we embrace the unseen, trusting in a power greater than ourselves? The ark story isn't just about a golden chest, it's a reflection of our own struggles to find meaning and connection in a world full of uncertainties. And yet, the ark's legacy doesn't end with its disappearance. The New Testament draws a profound parallel between the ark and Christ, both seen as vessels of God's presence. Just as the ark carried the law, the manna, and the rod, Jesus embodies the fulfillment of the law, the bread of life, and the ultimate authority. Could the ark's vanishing have been part of a divine plan, pointing us toward a new covenant that transcends gold and stone? The Ark of the Covenant leaves us with more questions than answers, and perhaps that's the point. What if its mystery isn't meant to be solved, but to keep us searching, digging deeper into the layers of Scripture and our own beliefs? What if, in its absence, we are meant to realize that God's presence is not confined to a box, a temple, or even a place in history, but is alive and active, calling us to faith even in the face of mystery? And now I ask you, where do you think the Ark of the Covenant is? Could it still be hidden somewhere, or is it gone forever? But more importantly, why does it matter to you? Could it be that this ancient mystery holds a clue to understanding your own faith, your own search for truth? The Ark may be gone, but its story continues to stir something deep within us, a desire to know the unknowable, to find the unfathomable. So, I challenge you, don't let the mystery end here. Dive deeper. Question everything. Because the answers, if they exist, will not simply be found in history, they might just be waiting for you to discover them within yourself.